Coming up on this week's show, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, that's who. The new 4v1 game from Illfonic is here. The Entropy Centre is channeling some major Aperture Science energy. Gotham Knights controversy and A Plague Tale Requiem returns with a tidal wave of rats on Gamepass. Hello friends and welcome to the Weekend Catch-Up Club podcast, the coffee morning show brought to you every week where friends hang out and chat about some of the latest stories going on in the industry. You can follow the show on all your favourite podcast platforms or watch the video version on youtube.com/gamertagged. This is episode 82 and joining me as always is the man with the personality of a can of Orange Tango. It's the king of the tangent, James McClellan.
Hey up.
And joining us in the co-host hot seat is none other than the voice from beyond. You've heard her in Rollerdrome, and you're about to hear her again in Goat Simulator 3. It's the ethereal, the spooky, the immensely talented Sara Lynham. There's the sound clip. We're going to make that the new jingle opening for the show.
Oh, yeah.
It's just Sara doing goat sounds.
Yeah. I mean,
Please.
I don't do a single goat sound in the game, but spoilers, technically.
Don't worry, I'm gonna capture that little goat sound, and I'm gonna put up as a free mod for the PC community to put into the game. There we go. You'll
Love
be
that.
immortalized as a goat.
The content they need.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Hashtag content. How have your weeks been, everybody? Have you been doing okay? We've been, Sarah, you and I have got a banger topic to talk about, which I'll get into the content and just the topic of the show is in a little minute. But in general, have you been doing okay? How's the studying going? How's the accountancy stuff going? And
it's
in
going
general,
good.
stuff going?
It's it's starting to get a little bit more intense. We were talking about government bits and bobs last night, which I thought was really interesting because obviously we have a kind of a bit of a chaos situation at the moment here in the UK in terms of the government, or rather we have for a while, but it just keeps getting more and more silly.
Yep.
But yeah, I also have been playing a couple of cool games, both of which are coming up in the episode, so I won't say anything about them now. But yeah, it's been a good week. Been a busy week. I had couple of auditions as well, so we'll see how those go, and rehearsing for my Halloween show, so that's really fun as well.
Awesome, of course, because it's Spooktober, and I was going to mention it as part of the wrap up for next week's show, but I may as well just mention it just now. Obviously, we are into Spooktober. Next week is going to be our Halloween show, so it's up to you guys if you want to dress up for it or have some sound effects going or anything like that. But we'll discuss that, I'm sure, after we get this one out. But it will be the Halloween show, so lots of fun to talk about on that one. Jamie, how's your week been, pal? Are you doing okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm great.
You've survived. You're
I'm
here.
still here. Yeah, fine. Just seems to have been one of those weeks where there's just not enough hours in any day to do any of the things I'm trying to achieve. So, but apart from that, spot on. So I have been also playing games as I do. It's probably why I don't have enough hours in any day to achieve things. But so I got my rank in Overwatch 2. My initial rank in Overwatch 2 came in at Bronze 2, which I will take. So next step, Bronze 1, and yeah, that's about it really. A bit of that, bit of Minecraft and Disney Dreamlight, and been a week. I don't know what's happened.
How has it already got to this point? How are we already another week? It's insane.
I know. Is our little show the one constant that gives you a little bit of a grounding for where you are in the week?
Do you know
Jamie?
what?
And then moving the day has now completely fucked you up.
I'm not gonna lie. Like working from home and being basically, and oftentimes not really leaving my flat a hell of a lot. Genuinely, the past few weeks, I've been like, well, I know today's Thursday because we're recording, and I've got it. And then this week, it was like, oh, we're not recording Thursday. And my brain just went, and just completely done. And I was like, yeah, sure, okay, I don't know what anything is now. I woke up yesterday still thinking we were recording, even though we had discussed this at length and it was not happening, it was tonight. And I was like, I got to get ready by 12. And part of my brain's going, for what? It's sorted. You don't. And I'm like, no, I've got to hurry. Got to get. So, yeah, I'm not good with scheduling or life or being a grown up. So,
well, hopefully we'll be back to our normally televised schedule next week. I hope so, anyway. But yeah, guys, topics for this show. We have got so many great topics. We have Ghostbusters. The Ghostbusters game came out and we've been loving it. I'm gonna save that topic for the very end of the show. I want to end the show on a massive high, so we're going to talk about that one last. So stick around, viewers and listeners. We also have A Plague Tale Requiem launched on Gamepass and also on PlayStation 5 and PC. I'm a huge fan of the first one, A Plague Tale Innocence, when that came out and back in 2019. So this is the follow-up by Asobo Studios. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Gotham Knights controversy over, for shame, the game is only 30 FPS. Jamie, how will we ever cope with a game that is only running at 30 frames per second? So we've got that to get into and talk about. No Man's Sky came out on the Nintendo Switch finally, and also as part of the 4.0 update. A lot of quality of life improvements got cascaded to the different versions and different platforms of the game as well. I'm going to be talking a little bit about that, because I love me some No Man's Sky. And we'll open up with the Entropy Centre, which is a game that's been dropping some previews. And unashamedly, this is very much, from my understanding and watching the trailers and stuff, it's basically Portal 3 by another name.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to kick it to Sarah first, because I can imagine Sarah does a really good GLaDOS voice from the original Portal series. What are you a Portal fan, and are you looking forward to Entropy?
Yeah. I love Portal. I mean, I was a latecomer to the series, but I absolutely love it. I love the sassiness of GLaDOS. I have like a kind of version of her in my gaming reel. So if you go to my website, saralynham.com, you can listen to that. And cast me in the next game. But yeah, it looks so cool. I love that they it's like a love letter to Portal, but it's still got its own kind of style to it as well. I love that the gun is what's speaking to you like throughout the game, and it's got such a cute little face. This little face when it talks to you, and it's not really sassy like GLaDOS. It's like chirpy, but in a like, oh, we're all just a little bit shit, aren't we? In that kind of way. And it's really fun. And I love that. And I love that it's not, it's taking inspiration and it's turning into its own game. And I'm very excited for this. It looks super cool. And actually the world building that it kind of gets alluded to in the trailer and in the stuff that's dropped already sounds so cool. I love the idea.
Yeah, I was watching the trailer immediately before jumping on our session to record. And I thought, it opens up and it is, I was thinking, how have they not been sued? Because this looks exactly like Aperture Science. It has the same kind of grey testing chamber walls. It's got that overgrown, gone to shit kind of vibe from Portal 2 when the facility's kind of been run down and everything. And then it becomes, as you said, it becomes its own thing. You pick up this kind of gun, you've got the little smiley face, and then it's like a blend of like the gravity gun from Half-Life is very much like the Portal stuff from the Portal games, but then it seems to be using its elemental powers, if I can call it elemental powers. It's not really elemental powers, it's like gravity and physics. But then there seems to be a bit of like time travel or manipulation to the puzzle solving as well. And I think, okay, it's coming into its own, it's doing its own things. It's really taking what Portal 2 did and then moving it forward. And of course, the Portal games are some of the greatest puzzle games ever made. And God, the humor and the writing of those games, if they can kind of equal that, not even come close to equaling it, not necessarily even topping it, it may not be. I mean, Stephen Merchant is the robot in Portal 2 is just hilarious. So that writing is just amazing. And of course, they got J.K. Simmons to do one of the like the founders of Aperture Science, who has this kind of VO stuff as well in the Portal 2. So I hope they have the capability to maybe bring in some world building voice talent as well. But even if it is just like your character and this peppy, funny, melancholic, sassy gun that is talking to you, I think it could be another Portal 1 moment for puzzle games. Anyway, Jamie, over to you, pal.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I'm a massive fan of Portal and Portal 2. I played both to absolute death. I've got nearly every achievement out of Portal 2, and there's a co-op one in there that haunts me because no one I knew had it. But the rest of them I've got. So at the time, just could not get that achievement. So, and it looks incredibly Portal. It's definitely one of those games that part of your brain suspects that someone on the dev team started a fan project and then went, ooh, wait a minute, we've got something here. So, looks great. And I'm a sucker for a talking gun or anything AI. I've got a real, ever since the early days of reading 2000 AD and Rogue Trooper, I love when someone's equipment talks to them. So, all in all, it just looks, and it is beautiful looking, but it's definitely, like Sarah said, it's a love letter to, the colour palette, for a start, is just a direct lift. And the aesthetic of all of the background texturing and stuff like that. Obviously, the weapon itself looks more military than the Aperture Science stuff, which looks a little bit more sleek. And so it's got a different sort of look there, but all in all, what really surprises me is, this is the first time I've heard of it. Until you sent the show notes, I had no idea this existed. I have caught none of this. So I don't know what rock I've been living under, because this is the sort of thing that would normally pop on my radar, because I love puzzlers, and I love Portal 2, and Portal 2, and I love indie titles. So I don't know how the hell I missed out on this one, but I am definitely picking it up.
I think it's a new developer, and this is the first games. It's from Stubby Games, which again, it's a developer I've never heard of. So I'm guessing this is their first maybe kind of venture, and they're getting a lot of attention and eyes on them because of the Portal inspiration, and they're wanting to do their own kind of take on it as well. But I hope it does really well. I believe it's scheduled to come out November 3rd, so very, very soon, which is why we're getting more previews and things dropping just now. But I'm looking forward to it, and I hope it's one of those games which the barrier to entry is quite smooth and easy. It's not going to be like an astronomically expensive costing game. I mean, if it was a Gamepass game or a PlayStation Extra game, that would be fantastic, because then you're getting that's where these subscription services can really benefit the indie devs, because they're like myself and other games, we're gearing up for the God of War Ragnarok, which is coming, or you're saving your money for the big Call of Duty, which is coming. And the smaller games that look extremely experimental usually never get much of a look in. But if it's sliding into Game Pass or the PlayStation subscription service, then you're going to just be able to dip into it for free, quote unquote free, because obviously it's not a free service, it's a sub service, but you know what I mean? It's a few bucks per month, and you're getting to just try it out and see if you like it. And then all of a sudden you're getting that massive Twitch audience to say, this is a title that is I just kind of picked up. I'm going to take a look at it. And all of a sudden you're getting that heat generated of word of mouth say, you got to check out Entropy Centre. It's Portal 3 by another name. It's amazing. Go check it out. That's obviously what we're hoping for. And we'll find out on November 3rd if that transpires to be the case. But looking forward to it very much.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about No Man's Sky, which came to the Nintendo Switch just the other week. And of course, version 4.0 got cascaded to the Xbox, PlayStation, PC. And I really, really dig No Man's Sky. I bought into the hype way back when the game was just pretty rough, shall we say, in a rough state. And even back then, there was stuff that I really, really liked about it. It was such a chill, like, space mining simulator back then. There was very little kind of going on in terms of what you could do. Nothing nearly compared to what it is today. And the fact that it's such a success story today is amazing. But even back then, you could still land on a planet, take off seamlessly, go to another solar system, land on another planet, and it was all seamless. I thought, this is all governed by mathematics and a formula. And I thought, this is incredible that it's just generating this stuff on the fly. And of course, many years later, we finally get the full realization of what No Man's Sky could be. The Beyond update, the next update, the whole bunch of kind of big expansions and updates. They brought in mechs, they brought in lunar rovers and different features and things like that. And then they brought in multiplayer, which is amazing, which is full crossplay. And just to see Hello Games absolutely continue to knock it out of the park, I was like, they're still delivering on this game, and they're all free updates is wild. And it's still one of my favorite chill games to play. But anyway, I'll stop talking for now, and one of you pick it up and let me know what your thoughts are on No Man's Sky, and then we can talk a little bit about the new features which have just come out.
Have you played it, Jamie?
I have played the hell out of No Man's Sky. I love it. I love survival games and games where I can build bases and games where I can explore. That's a large part of what my gaming is. So Raft, Minecraft, even like to a lesser extent stuff like Dreamlight Valley or Animal Crossing, although I don't have a Switch, but that kind of game, Stardew Valley, where I can build my own area, build my base, my farm, whatever. And No Man's Sky, basically, I didn't buy into it when it was first out, because before I managed to get sucked into the hype, heard how rough it was at the start. And so I kind of let it slide by. And then I came in a little bit later when it was more polished and had more to do, and fell in love and played hours and hours of it. And I've jetted about all over the place. I have a cruiser, I have bases, I have, it's so damn good. I'm very happy to see it come to every platform because it's cross play as well. So the more people who can get access to it, the more people you can play it with. So, which I have a lot of friends who are into the notion. So I'm hoping to put a fleet back together before long because, such
cool.
a
I know.
such
You've got
a
the
good
community
game.
expeditions and stuff as well. They had that tie-in with Mass Effect. If you remember, you
Mm-hmm.
completed the expedition, you could get the Normandy SR
That's
SR1 ship or frigate, I should say, as one of your frigates. And they've been doing more and more kind of tie-in stuff, but the community expeditions are pretty cool. Although they take a long time, so you got to kind of jump in as soon as the expedition becomes available because they do take like a good long time. And it's just awesome that they start doing this kind of stuff. And when this one came out, it had been a little while since I had played up the game because I dip in and drop off quite frequently of No Man's Sky, but that's the kind of the beauty of it. I can jump in, I can do some mining, I can do some spacefaring, some exploration, and then I can leave it, and then I can always come back a few months later to see what is changed, or just have my happy time, my zenning out to a podcast while I'm exploring the skies of the cosmos and everything. But so I started a new game when 4.0 dropped because I wanted to see what the new player experience was going to be like. And I have to say, they have added a new relaxed mode, and this is now my go-to mode. It is so tailorable to the kind of experience that you want. So you can go in super hardcore and have like a really difficult survival kind of experience where your oxygen or your life support is failing all the time, and you've got to scavenge your resources and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But then there's little toggles within the difficulty options in relax mode to say, okay, I want to be able to have infinite sprint, so I'm never having to wait on a cooldown between sprinting. And that means just like running across the planets are just so much easier, like a little quality of life feature. You can just kind of perma sprint, like what you can do in Elden Ring, actually, or in the overworld, you just perma sprint everywhere. So that's really good. And then you can say, okay, I want the resources that would typically have X value for crafting and for buying. I want those to be like halved or significantly reduced. So then you're saying, okay, I can acquire things much faster. I can build stuff much faster. I can play the it's like a kind of stock market, but it's a science fiction galaxy stock market. So you can do that kind of stuff. It's more readily available and quicker to give you that dopamine hit of being successful and things. But then it goes even further as well to say, okay, I am sick of being out of range of my spaceship to transfer stuff to the hold of my spaceship. So you can just turn that off entirely. So you have like an infinite distance between you and your ship to then just transfer stuff from your inventory back and forth. Again, quality of life stuff, which just improves and streamlines the whole experience, which I'm really, really loving. And I know purists out there were saying, well, that's bloody rubbish because it's supposed to be a struggle. It's supposed to be difficult. But saying that if you want just a chill sci-fi experience, this is it. And the one that so I've toggled all of this stuff on. And the one that I really like is that my spaceship or my starship fuel doesn't cost me anything. So I can take off and land without draining my pulse engines and then having to craft fuel and generate fuel cells and top up the ship every time. So I can go off wandering around for ages. And then because I have it's almost like an infinite tether to my ship, I can just summon my ship in whenever I want. And then rather than having to walk back within range of the ship to be able to get the signal and call it back. So there's things like that in the relax mode. You think this is just so friggin' awesome that they've done this. And they're just making it super easy for people who say, okay, I just want to be a badass explorer, astronaut, and go into space, go into planets, look around, and delve into the story, the science fiction, the lore, the weirdness of it all. And I don't have to worry about, oh my God, my ship is out of fuel again. Jesus Christ, I gotta find this super obscure resource to then craft metal housing for the fuel to go into, and then craft the fuel itself to top up the ship. So I mean, you've still got that if you want it. If you want to put it like that, that's great. But then I'm like, just give me a relaxed mode. I've got an hour. I want to just get into space, farm some asteroids, get some gold, get some silver, go to the nearest spaceport, do some trading, and have some fun. And they've nailed that with this relax mode. It is so cool.
Honestly,
it's basically the best kind of version of the game now.
Sounds like perfect. I've not played it. I've seen loads of it, and I know loads of other people who play it. Connor plays it, and I have a friend of mine who's a massive fan of it. He's an artist in New Zealand, and he does sort of Bob Ross style paintings of No Man's Sky landscapes.
Oh my God!
You need to look it
link.
up. Yeah. So his name is Joshua Drummond, but his artist handle is Tururu. But I'll send it to you so you can find.
Can we get him on as a guest?
Oh, totally. He would love that.
Oh,
he would absolutely love that. Yeah.
I will cover my walls in his work.
Honestly, it's absolutely stunning. And then he started doing this thing where he was like interposing other franchises into his work. So there was this amazing, beautiful Bob Ross style landscape, but with an X-wing just flying across. Yeah, it's super cool. I'll send you.
Tell Jamie this. I want to buy this, and now Jamie wants to buy this. Oh my goodness, this sounds phenomenal.
But yeah, and he's an amazing artist as well. Like he's super talented. I'll send you the link so you can see it. But yeah, you should absolutely check him out. What I love about this, like the Waypoint update that they've done, is it's so accessible. Like there are people out there that don't want to have to struggle when they play a game. They just want to have a good time. Like I love the idea of it being
100%.
just really relaxing, and it's just like I'm just going to spend an hour doing this. Or if you are the kind of person who would actually rather have a massive challenge, just go ahead and bump it up and, add more of that element into the game. I think that's perfect. It's so nice. So nice to have a game dev that is keen to have a game that works for everyone and that is customizable to the point where you can literally play the kind of game you want. You still get to experience the beautiful world that they've created, but in a way that works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next topic. Gotham Knights, everybody. I was so looking forward to this game when it first got announced. I thought, okay, we're doing the wider Bat family of Nightwing, Red Hood, Batgirl, and Robin. It's going to be a co-op game, but also single player. And then slowly, a lot of features and reports started coming out, which was not really painting it in a terribly good light. Of this is not the caliber of the Arkham games that you're probably, we're all actually used to. They're kind of doing its own thing, but they were quite adamant that this is not a live service game. But all of the video footage and reports that were coming out were saying, yeah, but you've got like a loot system, you've got energy bars over the enemies. This is a live service looter shooter, and everything but what you're saying. Like, if a duck is a duck, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, come on. Gotham Knights is a duck, right? That's my gist anyway. And then the latest report, which wasn't even a report, it was just like a developer drop comment on Discord to say, oh, by the way, our game is only going to run at 30 frames per second on next generation consoles. Now, remember, they dropped the last generation versions, the original Xbox, the PS4, because of pushing technology and having an ambitious game and everything like that. And obviously, that's just like putting gasoline on a fire for a huge part of the player base, unfortunately, and they did not hold back, I guess. And I was thinking, oh my god, Jamie, Sarah, how can we possibly play a game at 30 frames per second? It's such a travesty. How are we ever gonna live? But joking aside, like, for the most part, I don't really care. It would have been great to play this game at like 60 frames per second, have that smoothness. But then if you think back, you know what? The fidelity modes in God of War or Horizon were 30 on last generation, and then they got the pro versions. They were still 30. Yes, you can play them at 60 on the new consoles, but even if you want to play them at the 30 mode, it's still really tightly controlled. It looks amazing. There's no like egregious latency or horrible sluggishness or not. They look and play amazing. And the next game we're going to talk about, A Plague Tale Requiem, is also 30, and that plays really, really well. So I'm less concerned about this 30 FPS like traumatic announcement that everybody's kind of making it seem like it's the worst thing ever. Anyway, I will pass over to Sarah for your thoughts on Gotham Knights.
I have never really been worried about the frames per second on anything, really. I mean, I think what's good is that the devs are realizing that if they want something that will work across the board for everything, including their multiplayer when it's fully out there, because I think when it first comes out, it's only 2-player from what I remember reading. I mean, great. If it's optimized for that and it works really well, then great. And I guess, I mean, it's kind of the opposite, I guess, of what we were talking about with No Man's Sky. It kind of locks people away if they prefer to play at 60 frames per second, unless they have a PC, in which it would probably come unlocked, right? You could probably play it at 60 if you wanted to.
I think there's a lot of optimization problems with all the previews at the moment. Like even people that are running like a 1390 graphics card are having struggles trying to get it to run at a consistent 60 and things like that. So I think there's clearly some work to do with the optimization and patches that they're going to have to very quickly address and roll them out. But for the console players, what I'm now kind of paying attention to on video reports and stuff like that is like, it's supposed to be a 30 frames per second cap. But it's unlike Horizon, Forbidden West, or God of War. That 30 is not like a locked, stable 30. Right. It drops to like 20 quite frequently, or at the mid-20s mark, and then it kind of goes to 30. And for stretches, it will hold at 30. But it's not just this is the flat line of 30, and it never moves from there. And therefore, it would be totally fine for most players as an experience. I think it's because it's dropping a lot. It's making it feel like a pretty ropey experience, which is really unfortunate. Yeah,
that's a shame, especially when a game first comes out and you've probably paid top dollar for it as well, straight off the bat. It's you kind of want, you definitely want something that is reliable, that you can actually physically play. I heard something about someone suggesting to them that what they should do is they should have the lock of 30 frames per second on the multiplayer, but have the solo campaign stuff all be at 60. And I think basically the pushback from the devs was that would be really, really difficult for us. So no, that's why we decided on the 30. yeah, I don't know. It's tough, isn't it? Especially
It
with our
is.
next gen consoles, we sort of expect a certain level, which, I mean, it seems a bit unfair when you think about it, but also, I don't know. I guess
I
I've never really
know.
been that worried as long as it's not clunky. But if it's clunky, ugh.
I know. Especially because they're obviously going for this completely untethered co-op. It's not like um some of our favorite Halo games, Jamie, in the past, like from the Master Chief Collection, where you are tethered together, and those ones are a bit more linear for sure. You can go or separate to a degree, but once you hit a checkpoint, you get yoinked forward, so you're
Yeah.
always kind of together. Whereas I was trying to think, it's like, have we ever had a massive open world that is not an MMO that has co-op where you can really separate and go your own ways? I mean, the one that I'm thinking about recently is probably the overworld of Elden Ring, where you can separate quite far, but even there's still parts of the map that are locked off because you then have to load in that particular dungeon or that particular part of the game. And I was trying to maybe you've got better ideas, Jamie, but I was trying to think of one of such a scale. Like, there's typically being positioned as a single player game with co-op that has a co-op that you can literally separate and kind of do your own things within the game that isn't an MMO. I really can't think of one at the moment.
No, neither can I. The closest I can think is some survival games, like Grounded, for example, which is another one I've been playing recently. Like Grounded, you can go wherever the hell you want, do whatever the hell you want. No matter how many players are in, they can all go off and do their own thing. But that tends to be true of survival games. Like Minecraft is the same, obviously. So that's fairly standard, because in that you might want to build your own bases and split up. But you still have to go off and do the story stuff together, really, if you're going to experience it. So it's still not... I can't think of anything else that has the untethered co-op. So that is not off the top of my head. There's probably something out there, but
Sure.
But it's an exciting feature, and there is stuff to be excited about with Gotham Knights. I mean, I know we talked about it before, and it looked good, slightly baffling, but good. Like, I'm still trying to work out why the Bat family are scavenging for tech, because even if Bruce is, I know the blurb they released is like it's post death of Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, but
I'm like,
surely
okay, but
they're beneficiaries of his empire, right?
If he's going to leave his massive fortune to anyone, it's going to be one of the 4 people that we're talking about in the game. So I don't know why, but whatever. Maybe it's post-apocalyptic.
Maybe Lucius Fox also got taken out, and therefore they don't have anybody to run R&D for them behind the scenes.
Yeah,
maybe there's a wider plot issue there.
Yeah, there's a security system access to the Batcave, and they just can't get in.
Well, he didn't leave the password, so they also can't get into the Wi-Fi at the moment, which is terrible for them. So
Bruce has 2-factor authentication, and they buried him with his mobile phone.
Of course
so
they did.
They can't access
the Batguard authenticator.
Yeah.
But no, the 30 FPS thing, I will just say this. I don't give a flying monkey's gonad about frame rate, and never have. In as much as I value gameplay over graphics, and always have done. And when stuff's like, oh, we've got 60 FPS, I was like, that's great. What's your game about? Does it play well? Tell me about that. Like, I don't really care. I just want it to look as good as it's going to look. And there were certain, like I said, I was playing Minecraft the other day. We found a lush cave. I have no idea what frame rate that's running at. I couldn't care less. It looks as gorgeous as a game made out of boxes can ever look. And I'm happy with it. So it doesn't bother me. But if they are saying, oh, we're going to make every advantage of new tech, so we're not going to bother releasing it on older consoles, we're making it for new tech, but oh, by the way, we're not actually taking every advantage of the new tech because we can't quite do that, and that's going to be too tricky, so we're not going to do that. But it starts to make you question how polished this game's actually going to be. And so that's what concerns me. The news about the frame rate, it concerns me more, because it's like, it's starting to sound like some things are not going as planned here, and that is a little bit troubling from a game that needs to run smooth. Especially when you're talking about the combat mechanics and that. We're used to fighting as Batman in the Arkham games, and these are the guys he trained, and the combat systems looked good in the clips we saw. Like, they looked good, so that needs to run smooth. It needs to look good.
Mm-hmm.
As long as all that works, I'm really not that fussed about it being 30 FPS personally.
Yeah,
but
as
I
you
do
say,
get
Jamie,
why some people will be chagrined.
there's lots that I'm looking forward to. My copy actually got delivered today. I pre-ordered it and it got dispatched, and just before all the reviews dropped. Then all the reviews came out, and I'm thinking, oh my god, it's too late to cancel my order. Should I keep it? Should I return it? And I'm going to keep it because I do want to experience it for myself and form my own opinion. And I'm really looking forward to having Robin or Red Hood or Batgirl be my versions of these characters. Remember back, Jamie, we mentioned about Injustice 2 and how you could have multiple versions of the same superhero, but because they were essentially in Injustice 2, is also different from Gotham Knights, but because they were coming from different multiverses, your Batman would look different from my Batman, and your Hellboy or your Turtles would look totally different from mine, and Harley Quinn and things like that. So I'm looking forward to be able to customize my Red Hood or my Nightwing and things like that. And then when they do drop this new 4-player mode, which is coming in November, called Heroic Assault, that could be really cool to jump in with other players and see. I mean, I'm reading a little bit about it. It seems like it's going to be a game mode a bit like the Raid, where you have it's an arena style of a story-based challenge, and you've got 30, and they refer to it as floors. So I'm guessing it's maybe like a skyscraper or something in Gotham City. So if it's like a Raid style of challenge arena, that could be really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, it's 2-player at the moment at launch, but I'm still looking forward to it. Whether I'm just kind of blindly stupid and optimistic, and even though like everybody's saying this is a 4 out of 10 game, don't buy this. I still want it to be good. I still want it to be really good. And the fact that is maybe it is just a brawler, and maybe it doesn't hold a torch and could never hold a torch to Rocksteady's Arkham games. That's fine. I booted up Arkham Knight this morning and it still looks and plays phenomenally well. Guess what? 30 frames per second. I have no idea if it's a solid 30, but it's still 30 and it plays brilliantly. We've still got that. I'm still hopeful that I'm going to find things in Gotham Knights that I'm going to latch onto and say, this experience for me is good because of these things. Yes, there's a whole bunch of other stuff which could probably have been redone or reconsidered, or why did they decide to do that? And that's what a lot of maybe reviewers and other influencers are saying. This game is terrible because they're only focused on that. They can't look beyond that to find the thing that they are really excited about. For like, we're getting the Court of Owls story arc finally. Yeah, I know originally we had hoped that would be one of a proper Batman single player only a story arc, and it was rumored that would be, and it turned out that the Gotham Knights was going to get it. That is a fantastic story arc series in the comic books, and I can't wait to see what Warner Brothers Games Montreal have done with their interpretation of it. It doesn't have to be line for line, page for page, panel for panel exact. If they've reinterpreted it and it's still awesome, great. You know what? I've got the Court of Owls that I can play through as Red Hood or Nightwing or Batgirl, and that's cool. Anyway.
Yeah. I think the thing as well, the important thing to remember when it comes to reviews, and I say this as someone who's written a ton of them over the years, and I've sat there, and when you write a review, you are critically analysing the game that is in front of you. So you are looking, you're almost out there looking for it to fail in a way. You're looking for the bits that are broken because you're supposed to be telling people what they should expect from that game. And that's great, and that's fine, and that's totally understandable why all the reviews are kind of trashing it on technical specs, because that makes sense, and on gameplay not quite being up to what we expected it to be, etc., etc. However, you look at the review, and I will never stop apologizing for this game. You look at the reviews for Aliens Colonial Marines, right? That was slated across the board. Me and my friends picked it up. We had an absolute whale of a time and played it for weeks. Because whatever else, we got to run around with pulse rifles and shoot xenomorphs. That's fun.
See?
To a bunch of guys who
That's it.
grew up with the Alien movies, we're like, yeah, this is great. We're Marines now. We're colonial Marines. The game, janky. Like, there were problems with it. It was glitchy. There was all sorts of issues, but we enjoyed the hell out of it, and I will still rate that as a damn good game, because all I want out of a game is a bit of happiness for a while. Like, just a little bit of serotonin to get me through the day. That's really all I'm asking. So if Gotham Knights gives me that, it's a good game.
Mhm.
Now, it might still be technically flawed, and it might still be critically, poorly received. But so it's sometimes worth, if you're excited for it and you've got the money to drop on it, I would say it's still going to be worth trying it, because you might go in and find it might be your new favorite game. Problems notwithstanding. But
Yeah.
we shall see.
We shall see. We shall see. Final thoughts before we move on to the next topic, Sarah?
Well, the more we talk about it, the more I want to play it, basically. I'm definitely
Cool.
of the same mind of wanting to give something a go before I slate it. And I love sometimes when something gets quite a lot of press, even if it's negative press, that's actually quite tempting to be like, well, let's see what all this like negative fuss is about. See whether or not, it was accurate or not. It's like when you hear that a play is really terrible, I'm like, maybe I'll go see that play. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. A Plague Tale Requiem. We're going to talk about a little bit now. This came out just this week. I'm trying to think, was it a Tuesday? I think it was the 18th of December. November.
October.
What month are we in? October. Thank you. Yes, Spooktober. 18th of Spooktober. It came out. Day one launch on Gamepass, which was awesome for myself and Xbox subscribers. Also on other platforms such as PC and the PlayStation 5. And again, it's capped at 30 frames per second, and people were kicking off again for some bizarre reason. But of course, it obviously runs a much higher frame rate if you've got the horsepower on your PC. But on consoles, the PlayStation 5 and Series X I was playing it on, again, God, it's not an issue. And holy friggin' crap, this game is stunningly beautiful. It is. You can see Asobo, which are a relatively small studio. They have raised the bar over the first game, which was also a proprietary engine, very, very pretty game as well. This game is just so densely packed in every possible way, an improvement over the first one in terms of its presentation and visuals and mechanics and environments. And good Lord, it is fantastic so far. I am about 3 chapters in. I'm somewhere partly the way through chapter 3. So still quite a lot more to go. But just to see where they're already taking the story of Amicia and Hugo, the Darun family, of course, from the first game, and what is happening with the Malaka, I think it's called, is the kind of plague infection of Hugo's blood, to be able to control the rats and everything like that, and how it's consuming him. Oh, it is a ride so far, and again, it is every bit as bleak and vile and disgustingly pessimistic a view of that moment in history, with the French twist and narrative twist that Asobo are giving to it. It is horrifying. It is beautiful. And I can't wait to just kind of play more of it, because I was such a fan of the first game. And the first game really felt like it kind of came out of nowhere of, this is this tiny little indie studio. Well, it's not really a tiny indie studio. They're renowned for the Microsoft Flight Simulator games for decades. And of course, the most recent Flight Simulator is one of the most photorealistic games you have ever seen in your life. And you can literally fly around the world in real time, uninterrupted. But A Plague Tale, in a sense, felt very, very small, almost like a little kind of concept narrative game. But then it's like they have Naughty Dog level of ambitions for character animation, for narrative storytelling, for performance. And Jesus Christ, Requiem is hitting all of those beats and raising the bar. And have either of you had a chance to look at it or familiar with this series?
I am
Sarah?
super keen to play it. I actually haven't finished number 1, which is what I've been doing this week, is I've gone back to it. And it's brilliant, isn't it? It's just, and it's, yeah, you said horrifying and beautiful, and I'm like, that's how I like to live my life. So it's perfect, and it's gross and it's tragic, but it's really clever. And I love anything with it, like a sneak mechanic being like the primary way of playing the game. So I really enjoyed that. So I'm already loving game number 1. So I'm like, and you're like, oh yeah, it's like up to everything. I'm like, okay, cool, amazing. Now I really need to get through this so I can play the second one because it sounds incredible. But yeah, it's stunning, and it's really, some of the imagery, my God, it is terrifying. Like, yeah, some of the things you have to do or have to get through in order to just, and then all throughout that you realize these are kids, these are children, and that is absolutely mad. And I'd be really curious as to like to talk to the story developers, the writers of it, and just figure out where it all came from, because it's dark. I mean, you could make a dark story. It would still be just as good if they weren't children protagonists, but they are, and it makes it all the more poignant, which is very clever. It's a clever choice.
There's so many parts to the first game, because it's fresh to you, don't really know what to expect with the first game, where the rats first appear, and there's so many of them, and that is terrifying. And all you see are these little twinkling eyes coming out of the dark at you, and it's thinking, there's like an entire ocean of these rats just crawling over, falling over, spilling over each other. And then you've got the sound, that the kind of scratching, screeching noise that they make. And this is obviously replicated in Requiem as well, but the music is like, it's like all violins or cellos to do that almost, it's like the, oh God, I've forgotten the director's name. It's music like it's a piece of music where it's like bees or bumblebees, and it's just like long drawn chords of stringed instruments. I've completely forgotten
the
the
Flight
name
of the
piece as
Bumblebee
well.
by
Yes, Flight of the Bumblebee.
Wagner.
Yeah, and there's a movie director, horror director, which also kind of utilizes that style of sound in his horror movies as well, which I've completely blanked on. Jeez, I need to try and correct this in the comments or something. But anyway, it's like that with the stringed instruments of just really long, uncomfortable, drawn out chords, or really fast movement of the chords, and it's like, you can literally picture the rats when you hear the chords, and oh my God, it's fucking terrifying. And of course, Requiem is. I don't want to give too much away because I want everybody to experience it, knowing very little. But safe to say, on Sarah's point about the fact that these are children having to be impacted by these like such atrocities, it weans so far. Anyway, I'm still very early into the game, about the anguish, the actual mental anguish of what the children have to do to survive, and that's really at the moment weighing on Amicia, who's the older sister, as like, look at these things I'm having to do to just survive and help my brother Hugo. And again, I'm so early into the game, I can't wait to see where it goes. But the stealth mechanics, they've really opened up as well, Sarah.
Cool.
One of my big kind of frustrations and complaints, it felt like as soon as you were spotted, that was kind of it. It was kind of like game over. There was very little you could do to recover and escape, where they've overhauled that entirely. There's so many options now for your repertoire. You've still got the classics, like you can set fire to things or you can extinguish the fire, but then they've expanded it even further. I'm not going to explain what they are. Maybe we'll come back once we've both finished it and we'll do a proper deep dive of all of the stuff. But
Love that.
The environments are just way bigger as well, so you've got more flexibility to, if you're spotted and one of the heavy knights is coming toward you. First game, that was pretty much game over. Now you can run away, you can lose them in the tall grass, and you can regroup, and so there's a bit more flexibility around that, and it's
cool.
not as trial and error frustrating as what the smaller scaled first game was. So
yeah,
it is a banger of a title, and the fact that it's on Xbox Gamepass is just an extra treat for me, because it's like, okay, I'm just gonna download that and try it out, even though I was going to buy it anyway had it not been on Game Pass, because I was such a fan of the first game. But again, Game Pass just showing its value for accessibility experiences is outstanding. And God,
yeah,
and I haven't noticed the frame rate at all yet. I can tell it's not hyper smooth like what the first game is running on next gen, but it's snappy, it's responsive. Again, you can tweak how fast the camera moves and things like that in the settings, so it's less noticeable of it being maybe sluggish or things like that. But it's such a story-driven, slower-paced game as well that the frame rate just feels really solid. Even if it's not, I haven't noticed if it is choppy or not. And performance on Series X, anyway, is the only one I can vouch for, is just kind of solid. There's like no issues. It's not taking me out of the game or the experience for anything. I'm just really, really enjoying the narrative and the vulgarity and the horror of this French countryside that has been literally ripped apart by all of these waves and oceans of rats. And what do they call it? The faction. I forgot. God, my memory tonight. I've totally forgotten the faction.
Me too.
The Inquisition. The Inquisition. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking Monty Python sketch. Python. The Inquisition. That's who it is. Not the Spanish Inquisition. It's the French Inquisition. Yeah. Anyway.
Does the Xbox have similar sort of haptic style stuff that the PS5 controller has? Because one of the things I noticed when I was playing it last night is that when you're anywhere near one of these big like swarms of rats, the controller is literally like kind of like vibrating in tiny little pinches all across your hands. So it feels like they're kind of scuttling around inside the controller. It is terrifying and awesome.
On Xbox, there's basic rumble. There's a bit of rumble. It's like vibration. Like if they burst through the ground, you'll get like rumbles like that, like a typical vibration.
Yeah.
But clearly I'm going to have to download it on the PS5 just to get that.
Absolutely, you
extra
should.
haptic. It's like, oh my God, there's fucking something crawling around in my controller.
It's great.
Terrifying! No.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So I'm going to have to play this, aren't I? Because
yes, you must.
There are too
gotta
many
prioritize,
games.
Jamie.
I'm going to have to move it up the list because horror is absolutely one of my favourite things on Earth. And all I can think about when you were talking was the Rats trilogy by James Herbert, which is one of the most gruesome, horrific sets of books I've ever read, and I loved it. Although, brief funny story for you, I was once we were doing free reading in school, and I was reading the Rats trilogy at the time, and I was on Domain, and there was a particularly awful scene in it where someone is assaulted and fights back and pushes their thumb into someone's eye, and it is very graphic.
I always hate that. And
I'm on that page, and I'm reading that scene, and then I hear the teacher's voice go, "And James, perhaps you'd like to read a bit from your book." And I'm like, "You don't want that." And she's like, "Well, no, go on." I was like, "You really don't?" And she was like, "I'm going to have to insist." I was like, "Okay." As she felt the visceral pop of jelly under her thumb, she went, "What are you reading?" And I held it up. She went, "Why didn't you mention that?" I was like, "I did try and warn you." So, not my fault. But, like the notion of there are certain things that horror directors do brilliantly and games don't always do as well, which is the use of certain, techniques, like you said, like off-putting music or discordant notes or long camera angles that make you feel helpless and things like that. And it sounds like they've kind of nailed it with this, so that's definitely something I'm going to get on board with. So and rats are just awful anyway. So and also the the kids bit I hadn't quite realised, because I don't know a hell of a lot about this series of games. And again, that's another thing. Like, if you look at It by Stephen King, like one of the most chilling things about that is the fact it's kids fighting back against this.
Yeah.
And it just raises the stakes a bit and makes you more like, well, you can't kill the kid. That's not okay. So it's I'll push it up the list. It's sounding damn good.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where if you know a little about it, but as little as possible, then you'll get a lot from it, and it will surprise you. And that's what I got with the first game. I thought, what is this, and who is this studio? I need to know who they are. What have they done in the past? And apart from Flight Simulator, they've always done like Disney Toy Story games. Apparently they've done those. They've done like fluff children's games. So you're thinking, clearly they've been repressed doing Disney games, and they have to just vent these horror atrocities into this new IP, and they've been bottling this up for a while. And then,
it, yeah.
This is like
outstanding work.
Maybe this is the upside down world of like Ratatouille. That's what they're actually.
Very good. Very good.
That's you're gonna next time you log into the Dreamlight Valley, Jamie, you're gonna have a tidal wave of rats just swarming all over the place, taking over the place, and you've done it now.
It's fine. I'll only have to either feed them or fetch stuff for them. That's all I do in that damn game. So much as I love it.
Yeah. So, listeners, viewers, highly recommend checking out A Plague Tale Requiem on Gamepass, on PlayStation, on PC. It is quite special so far anyway, and I'm looking forward to a proper deep dive chat about the plot and everything when Sarah eventually gets finished the first game and then dives into the second game, to be continued on a future episode of the Weekend Catch-Up Club podcast. Available on all good platforms. Check it out. Hit subscribe. Anyway, there is something strange in the neighborhood, everyone. Who are you going to call, Jamie? Who are you going to call?
Not me, because I haven't got it yet.
Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. Sarah, you and I both have it. We have managed to... Actually, no, we haven't managed to play together, but you played with our friend Dan, and I've been playing a little bit with Dan as well. We have yet to actually get the three of us or a full stack of Busters together, but we have been playing a lot of it. And obviously, it's out on every single platform, PC, PlayStation, Xbox, not Switch, sadly. I don't think it will ever come to Switch, but you never say never. You never know. It would be pretty cool. I'm guessing it's probably available on the Valve Steam Deck as well because of the PC kind of connection. But it's on the Epic Game Store partnership at the moment, I believe. Anyway, enough about that. This is, hands down, the greatest Ghostbusters game, finally, that we have to play, and it is so good. For the longest time, I thought, okay, we have hit a peak with Luigi's Mansion 3. That is the pinnacle of Ghostbuster games, and it's an exclusive to the Nintendo Switch, and it is phenomenal. And I've actually seen some memes and stuff like that and images online of people who have actually created their Ghostbuster to look like Luigi. And
nice.
then the Ghostbusters social team of like, I believe you have previous experience in hunting ghosts. You are welcome to join our game, kind of thing. It looks fantastic. But Sarah, Ghostbusters, how are you finding this game, and how big a fan are you of the classic movies?
Oh, I love Ghostbusters. What an amazing franchise. I mean, and the game is so good. Like, there was this moment where you sort of first pick up your, you put your pack on and everything, and they're like, hey, are you gonna have a go at just shooting this weapon at these little ghost target practice kind of things? And I was like, I said out loud, this is fucking cool. And then the VA said, this is fucking cool. And I was like, stop! You're in my head. You feel like a total badass shooting up the ghosties. It's very cool. And I love the kind of the style of the animation that they've gone for as well. Super cool. Yeah. And character customization. Everybody loves character customization. you tweeted a pic of yours, Ross, and I haven't responded with mine yet. But naturally, I made it look as much like me as possible because I love doing that. But like, imagine
Awesome.
if I had hair that defied gravity. It's like this kind of massive kind of 80s voluminous kind of white shock of hair. Yeah, it's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
it's super
It's
cool.
so good.
I
The
don't want to
sound
give away too
effects,
much, but it's
I know.
it's so good.
How they nailed the sound effects. Clearly, the developers Illfonic are mega fans. They must have grown up with the series just like we did, and this is the childhood dream of strapping on a proton pack, getting your boiler outfit on with your little name patch.
Yeah.
And what is cool is it will automatically populate whatever your gamer tag ID is. That's your little name patch on your boiler suit. And it's so good. And you can be a purist and go for the tan boiler suit, or you can change the color to like reds or blues or greens. And yeah, as Sarah says, the customization, I've managed to get mine looking almost identical to myself in real life. It is scary how it's like this. If you were to Ghostbuster yourself with a bit of a Fortnite kind of or Disney kind of aesthetic to it, like this is the most perfect avatar I think I've ever had in any game without spending, I guess, like crazy hours molding the nose and eyebrows and things like that. It's like the preset was close enough, and then you add the beard, you add the bald hair, the glasses. Like this is a dead ringer. And even the Ghostbuster official tweet replied to say it's like that's like the most perfect like but one like comparison shot ever that we've ever seen. It was awesome. And that tutorial, when you first fire your proton blaster, it has that uncontrollable kind of jerkiness from the movies, and it fires out the kind of the wavy beam with this sound effect is bang on from the movies. And then you start scorching stuff because you haven't quite hit your target. So if you hit the wall and then drag the beam across to the target, it will leave scorch marks like it does in the movies. It's that kind of detail. It's amazing. And then of course you can customize the backpack and the actual beam thrower to boost stats, and it might be better. It won't overheat as fast, or you'll have better control. And there's all this customization stuff. And the best thing for me is that Dan Aykroyd is actually in the game as well. And and Ernie Hudson's in the game as well as voice actors and characters. And he's thinking, fucking yes, they fucking did it, motherfuckers! They did it! It's so good.
That
they
first time,
the
second time where you're talking to Dan Aykroyd's character in his little occult bookshop, and I was like, who the hell wrote this? This is absolutely spot on, like to his character and everything that they built in the franchise. And again, not wanting to give too many spoilers away, but what you then get to do after the thing that he brings into the shop, and then you open this book that he's bought, I was like, oh, I didn't know I was going to be able to do this as well. This is fucking cool. Oh man, you need to get it, Jamie. Come play.
I do.
Come play.
Yeah. So it's not a secret or spoiling anything to let listeners know that the thing that Sarah's talking about is you get to control a ghost. It's a 5-player 4v1 asymmetric multiplayer game, or you can just go against bots or whatever. So you can have 4 friends that are just the Ghostbusters, and then a rando or a bot can be the ghost. Or I did one of our friends, Ryan and Dan. They were Ghostbusters with 2 bots in the game that we were playing last night, and I said, guys, I'm gonna be the ghost and just fuck with you for a little bit just to see what it's like. And I'm not kidding. It was so much fun of me just going in the environment trying to hide from them. And Jamie, you can possess things, objects in the environment, right? So I had possessed an arcade machine, and it was standing next to another arcade machine, but there's the ability to haunt objects, and you have a haunt meter that once the whole arena is 100% haunted, the ghost wins. It's hard to do, but you do that by haunting objects, and those objects will start like either floating around or rolling across the floor, or if it's a bunch of papers, they'll they'll fly off the shelves and things like that, just like from the movies. And that will fuck with the Ghostbusters because they're thinking, oh, that's the ghost. So I did that to this other arcade system that is next to me, and I'm a possessed one, and it started to kind of rock and move out, and then they just attacked it because they thought it was me, and we're on a Discord chat as well, so they can hear me fucking giggling like crazy, and it was so funny. And then I managed to get away and just start possessing and messing with because there's civilians in the environment as well.
Oh yeah,
and they have a happiness meter. Like if they're terrified, then that will go against the Ghostbusters, but it's in favor of the ghost, obviously. So if you're a Ghostbuster, you have to calm them down, and it's like a little mini game of a dial that has to fill up, and then there's little, if you hit the trigger at various points in this little counter dial that's filling up, you'll get support bonuses. It's not imperative that you get these. If you miss them, it's not a big deal, but it turns them from being scared to like calm and then happy. So you have to kind of micromanage the civilians within the area as well. But then the ghost can be terrorizing them at the same time and possessing things in the environment and gradually just filling the whole arena with ectoplasm and making it fully haunted and spawning little minion ghosts and things like that as well. And so there's that side of it for the person who's playing the ghost. And it was so much fun. I obviously prefer to be as the Ghostbuster, but just that little taste, that couple of matches we played where I was the ghost and I was laughing my ass off because they couldn't get me for the longest time. and they did eventually get me, obviously. They teamed up with me, but they threw the trap down, opened the trap, I got sucked into it, but I was fucking laughing like crazy the whole way. It was so much fun. What a game.
It's so brilliant. I would definitely recommend it. If you've played anything like the Evil Dead multiplayer game that came out earlier this year, it's a similar kind of vibe to that, but like way more fun, like way more like, classic 80s Ghostbusters vibes, like perky and fun and silly and clever. And the voice of the spirit, the evil spirit guide who helps the ghost, Raul Coley, is awesome as well. He is incredible in it. But yeah, I can't wait to play more of it. Online multiplayer games with friends, it's great. Let's do it.
Yeah. And it's crossplay, and we have been struggling a little bit to get the crossplay working, but we finally got it working and got the accounts all hooked up and everything like that, and the accounts linked. But so Wadey was on, Dan, our friend, he was on PC. Sarah's obviously on PS5, and I'm on Xbox. So once you eventually get your Epic account linked up and connect, which seems to be really hit and miss at the moment. They'll iron that out eventually, but it really is. It's actually a bigger problem to get the game linked to your Epic account. It just spins for ages, and then I had to do a lot of kind of loophole jumping of, okay, I need to go into my Epic account, unlink it, and then try and relink it directly from the game. And it was a bit of a headache. I know they'll sort that stuff out, but once it was done, it was just fantastic. And we did the Discord chat because that was just so easy. The in-game chat is really weird. It's proximity based. So if you're away from the other Ghostbusters, you can barely hear them. So that needs to get just overhauled and addressed and just make it. That's not great.
So we just jumped on big,
and the maps are quite big, exactly. So we just jumped on a Discord call, all of us. And at the moment, anyway, that's fantastic for Xbox players because you can just transfer the Discord call straight to your console. I believe that is coming early next year for PlayStation, the Discord integration. Once they nail that, there's absolutely no issues with cross-platform multiplayer chat. But it's so good at the moment. I just they've just nailed it. The only thing I would maybe quibble about at the moment, even at this stage, it's only been out a week. I'm thinking, okay, this is great. I'm working through these. It's like 7 environments or 7 mission kind of environments. I'm hoping that there's more coming or there's more to unlock because I'm a little bit worried. It's like, okay, the game's been out a week. Is this all the content there is? I hope there's a lot more. Whether it's just a progression thing, I just need to unlock more to discover it. but I'm worried that, okay, there's only 8 environments and you're just going to be cycling those over and over. Still a riot with your friends, of course, but that could get stale very, very quickly, and you need that extra environment variety. And maybe there are bigger environments that they're working on and going to be putting out in a timely fashion. But I'm just worried that will they get them out fast enough to hold that audience that is clearly already loving the game. And like, this is the Ghostbusters experience that we've been wanting for ages. And I was looking a little bit into the history, the background of Illfonic. I didn't realize that they were the developers behind Friday the 13th, asymmetric multiplayer game, and also the Predator Hunting Grounds video game as well. And they did support on, I don't know if it was support on the Evil Dead, but they definitely did support on Evolve, which is unfortunately was one of the best and one of the first asymmetric multiplayer games, and makes me sadly lament the demise of that game, because had that game been handled better, been marketed better, and had it been come out today as a proposition, I think it would have been an absolute, pardon the pun, but a monster of a title, because that was such an original game and a different take on multiplayer at the time. But Ghostbusters did.
I'm bumping it up the list. I will get it. But I love asymmetric multiplayer titles. I loved Evolve. I've actually, you can just about see it in the camera, but I've got the class badge, pin badge set from Evolve from one of the Eurogamers, which is back there, because I loved that game. I love the notion of having a squad going against, a big bad, but the big bad is also a player. There's a lot of fun to be had there. And there's various games that have been doing it since. Obviously, Hello Neighbor would be one. Secret Neighbor, the hide and seek type, game that came off of it. That's a smaller one. Obviously, Friday the 13th, Dead by Daylight, which is great fun. One thing that we've said is, like, on the ghost front, Phasmophobia, which obviously I've put literally hundreds of hours into, would be greatly improved by, if your character dies, if you could then become a ghost that's actually haunting the area and fuck with your team.
Yes!
Because to a degree, you used to be able to, because you could pick up some items.
Yeah.
And when you're first playing it, like, you pick up a cup and just throw it at them down a corridor, and everyone would be like, ah! And it was great. But then after a while, cup gets thrown, and they're like, piss off, and they carry on looking for the ghost because everyone's used to it. And that it ties into what you were saying about, is this all there is? Again, Phasmophobia hit that point. We know the maps, we know them inside, with the exception of they changed stuff. Obviously, it's been out a long time, but so you know the maps, you start to get used to it, and that takes away a little bit of the element. But I think where they're definitely onto a winner is you've got the Ghostbusters franchise to play with, which is just one of the most fun film franchises of all time. Like, particularly for me, the first two, like the originals, because I'm an 80s kid at heart, and those were the ones I grew up with and watched repeatedly, to the point that I think I probably still know both of them off by heart. And you've got all of that to play with that. You get that sort of Phasmophobia creep factor of looking for the ghost, but in a much more fun way, and I think it's just, and like you said, it's multiplayer, so it's just got everything going for it. So if they keep rolling out content to give people more to do in it, I think it's got a lot of longevity behind it, and then it'd be interesting to see what they do with it down the line. But yes, I will pick it up. We will bust ghosts.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen. I don't know if you have, Sarah. Have you seen any reference to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man yet?
No.
Or anything like that?
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, there's none of that yet, so it's got to come.
Not picking it up, unacceptable.
I know, but even there could even be a tie-in with the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie, because that sequel will be coming. If this game is still running for that time, there's got to be marketing tie-ins,
absolutely,
for that stuff. Skins, ghosts, ghost types, and oh man, the potential absolutely massive for this game. And the fact that they've nailed the tone so far, the aesthetic so far, the feel of the proton packs. One of my builds has a grapple hook, so I can just get up to the different levels of an environment like really fast. There's customization for your character build, and it's so so good, so fun. It's been a long time since I've had a multiplayer game which has given me my childhood pure, unadulterated joy again. And the fact that it's been done so well and it plays so well and runs so well is just even better, because you know, sometimes there's these things where it's you're running on pure nostalgia and maybe it's not quite technically nailing everything that you want, but this game is just hitting exactly both cylinders of that experience. And
yeah, totally agree.
So good. So good. What a way to end the show for episode 82 of the Weekend Catch-Up Club podcast. Friends, thank you so much for listening, for watching, wherever you are consuming this content. I hope you've enjoyed it. I have had an absolutely amazing chat with Sara and Jamie on our topics tonight. Tune in next week because it is Spooktober and it will be our Halloween episode. So there may or may not be fancy dress. Who knows? There may be things going on, but there will definitely be lots of horror game chat because Silent Hill is back. Resident Evil Showcase happened. We have got lots of stuff to chat about that is in the vibe of Halloween. So tune in for that. Same time next week. We're live. Episodes go live every single Monday. So look forward to that, everybody. And until next time, take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.